The Liberty Meat Solutions podcast is all about food freedom and finding ways to provide for you and your family outside of the system, how to raise and process your own meat and not rely on others to do so. Thanks for listening, and we hope that you enjoy.
Hey folks, we are live again from the car here. I've got an awesome guest with me today, so I'm going to save a lot of the intro and fun stuff like that. If you're tuning in here, hopefully you're finding us on YouTube. Follow me there, or you can find us at live.libertymeat.solutions, and you can find all the different ways to follow us there. If you're tuning in the audio side later on, go on back and check on the YouTube later on if you want to catch some of the video of this. Ran into an awesome guy on TikTok the other day. Yes, that crazy crazy freaking Chinese app that's going to steal all our data from our Chinese phones. It's been a pretty good platform once you get past all the crazy dancing girls and whatnot. There's actually useful people on there, and this is one of those guys. He's raising birds in his backyard. He's doing small acreage and whatnot, doing a lot of stuff you're told you can't do. So wanted to have him on, ask him if he'd like to join the podcast, and sure enough, here he is. So everybody go ahead and welcome Johnny from RebelPoultry. Go ahead and follow him over there on TikTok. And Johnny, you're live. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Howdy.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Awesome. All right. So
sorry about my massive spectacles.
Oh, you're fine. For folks who have no idea, what's a Johnny, and tell us about RebelPoultry.
Johnny's just a married family man. Got 2 kids, and started noticing a couple of years ago that food security kind of wasn't there, and we started thinking about maybe raising kids and chickens. And so we strung up on a few chickens, and then we kind of realized, like, hey, maybe we would like a little bit more than just a few eggs. We got a few more layers and started selling a few eggs to our friends. And then we decided also to get into meat birds. Started following Joel Salatin and Justin Rhodes videos and seen, I think I can do that. And sure enough, lo and behold, we could do that, and we raised our first set of meat birds off of some, I think they were Cobb 500s or something like that we got it was just some random Cornish cross, huge mortality rate. Like it wasn't a great experience, but we got some good carcasses and some good meat in the freezer.
You guys pen raise them or tractor them, or how'd you do that?
Yeah, we passed them.
So, did you guys feed restrict at all?
Hold on a second.
Did you still have your? Oh, you're good.
Stop making them cry. Share the toys. I'm on the phone. You think everybody on this radio show wants to hear all that? Both of you go play in the room.
And there it is. Real life.
Go play in the room. Yeah, that's. The kids are harder to raise than the chickens. I'm going to be honest.
Real as it gets. I tell you, I'm sure.
I knew this would happen too. I told you.
Oh yeah, that's fine, man. No problem.
Scheduling works out for us though, because my wife works opposite shift. So like one of us is always here in the morning, and then we swap out around 3 o'clock. And then so one of us is always here to water the birds. And it's like she feeds before she goes to work. I water as soon as I wake up, and then I'm running the gun with the boys until I meet her at the time clock. We swap the boys out, and we're able to keep. We got a flock of about 50 birds right now.
It's hard to actually keep animals when you don't have somebody else to be there at the house. You've got to balance back and forth. So it's cool that it works out for you all, that you can manage to make it happen. And I tell you what, raising kids and raising animals, you're doing double duty there. So that first flock, when you did it, you said you had a huge mortality rate. Were you guys doing feed restriction on that, or were you just running
no, we didn't know about the feed restriction. We didn't know anything. I knew to put them on grass so that they could get some benefit from the grass, and it also decreases your feed bill by about 15% or so. So that we kind of knew about that. We gave it a whirl, built a little what do you call it, a little hoop house. And it worked out pretty good for it. And then after that batch, though, we went a little bigger and tried some Ross 308s out of that was just our second batch. But my second batch of birds is what we're eating off of in the freezer right now. And I'll do another batch. I'm going to go the same way, Ross 308s. As soon as the summertime kicks down and it gets a little, because I'm not going to do it in August because that heat will give you mortality also. So right about the end of August, I'll pick up chicks. I'll raise out another 50 or so for 8 weeks. I'm probably going to do a processing video on that one because a lot of people have been asking, you know, what do you do what do you do after this and after that and after you process? So I'm going to show them the ice bath and how to do the cut ups and you know how to bag and tag, date everything, put it in your freezer the right way to bag it.
Absolutely. Are you going to do that on TikTok or?
That's it. I'm looking around for Twitch, maybe looking at Twitch possibly, or other streaming platforms where I can do maybe a longer video. But I will condense it into 3-minute clips, and then maybe go part 1, 2, 3, and go on down like that on TikTok. Because TikTok has been
probably pull you if you're doing too much. I've had a lot of videos that even if it's not, you're not showing a slaughter necessarily, but certain things even a picture of a knife in a video. It's amazing. I've got the one with the sword up on TikTok still. It's crazy, you know. Well, I'm thinking about maybe at some point I could always host a few videos of stuff like that on my website. You could point people that way if you have to too, if it gets taken down. It's good to get it as many places as you can. So anyway, though, my understanding is that you guys are pretty much defying what everybody says you can do, and you're breeding Cornish cross in your backyard.
Yeah, we are breeding Cornish cross. I was about to take you in here and just show you kind of stuff that I mean, this stuff isn't really necessary to have, but like one of these kill cons, these are actually a really humane way to go about it. Yeah. It's small though for the meat birds. I need a bigger one, but now we've also got this guy here. That is just a yard plugger from Tractor Supply, but you can do in 30 seconds or 15 seconds, really. What we used to take you half an hour. So that was definitely worth.
I don't have a plucker, which is part of why I don't really raise a lot of my own for meat, because I just don't want to mess with it. And I can't justify buying a plucker for the small volume of meat birds I do. But
you see that guy right there?
Yep.
You see him? See that big one?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's like double the size of the rest of them.
The same day. These guys are all born on the same day.
That's a chunky little fella.
Chunky. That's how. And that guy is only half Ross 308. That's why when people are telling me on there like, "Oh, you can't do that. The Ross 308 won't breed true." So I'm getting pretty big birds, and they're only half bred. So you can't tell me that I'm not going to get, the same thing that they are.
You're keeping Cornish cross hens, and you're breeding them to a large breed rooster. Is that
what
you got going on? Okay, yeah. Well, and then you're getting a hybrid vigor too, which helps. But you probably only get that, I bet, in the first generation. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. You can't really breed Cornish cross back to Cornish cross and get a real Cornish cross. But I know a lot of folks have been doing breeding 2 large breeds together, and that F1 generation is going to be meaty.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to get to my settings. Sorry. I'm trying to flip the camera around real quick.
Yeah.
I was messing with this while I was backstage. But here we go.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
See them?
Oh, yeah.
They're all lounging in the shade around the water right now. It's a little hot up here right now, but there's the rooster right in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And those 3 Cornish cross hens just hang out right around them. And then behind that little silver waterer, there's their first daughter. Well, she was actually from another Cornish cross hen that got killed by one of our ducks. So she's the last one that we'll get from that hen. But now we're still hatching off the other 3. And there's I don't know if I can zoom in or not, but there's a little turkey back there kicking it up against the feeder. We got a couple of baby turkeys. Lost a couple to a raccoon. Recently.
Raccoons are bad. Yeah. Well, so you guys have that all going on. Have you done any second generations from some of your own breedings, or has everything kind of been so far that you've hatched?
This is our first cross directly from Cornish cross. We would have done pure Cornish cross. We actually tried that first, but the roosters were so large that when they mounted the hens to do it the natural way, they were ripping them and ripping skin off them. Right. Yeah, I had to put a couple of them down because they were suffering. So I was like, okay, we can't do it like this anymore.
So and then we discovered AI, and that sounds like not something I want to mess with.
We found out about artificial insemination, and we had an aha moment. It's okay, that's how they're doing it at the breeder farms, because the Ross 308 is, despite what they're saying online, because they're all brainwashed by this corporate propaganda that you can't feed yourself. So like everybody's like gatekeeping on us. Everybody's gatekeeping on my content. Like is Tyson paying you? I mean,
I saw that. You're coming on your videos and you're showing these meat birds that you've hatched. And they're like, those aren't your birds. You didn't hatch those. You can't do that. Like, you're watching me do it on a video, man.
Yeah, I can show you every stage of life that they're in. Like, I can show you the eggs, the chicks in the incubator, out of the incubator.
Well, the other thing that gets me is why would you lie? What would you stand to benefit from going on TikTok and saying, hey, look, I'm breeding Cornish cross, when you're just buying them from a feed store? There's no point in doing that. So
no, there's no money. There's no money.
There's nothing magical and special about those chickens. They're still just chickens. They're a selective special breed. But people have been raising chickens for meat long before we had hatcheries to buy from. You know, don't get me wrong. The Cornish cross is probably top of the line for absolute production, but there's no reason you can't replicate that at home. They just don't. But they don't want you to. They have a vested interest in making sure you're dependent on them.
I'll still go back and grab more of the Rock 308 from the Campbell, Texas hatchery, the Windy Meadows hatchery. I'll still go back and get more from them, because they've actually got a Windy Meadows farm too, and they grow their own chickens out for market. They've got a small USDA processing facility on site. I think they wanted like $3 a bird though. It was just cheaper for me in the long run to just do it myself, because if I sell to some friends or whatever, I can only make like $5 on a bird. If I grow a Cornish cross out, I only make like $5 on a bird. I just do it to fill my freezer, really. You know, if somebody wants to get one, I'll be like, well, here you go. I'll make $5 on it. So there's no way that I'm going to go pay $3 to have somebody else, cut my bird up.
Oh, and on the flip side of that, I've had folks ask me if I would do mobile poultry processing. And I was like, no matter how I crunch the numbers on it, I can't make money doing it. I'd have to do so many birds and be miserable the entire time doing it and show up. And I'd have to charge you such a high price that it wouldn't be worth it for you. So what I can do is exactly what I'm doing here. Try to run a podcast, run some education, and help teach people how you can do the shit yourself, And
it's not hard. Well, that's when we figured out that it is not hard. It is no more graphic really or complicated than gutting a fish. But you've got feathers instead of scales. Where you used to have to deal with scales, now you got to deal with feathers. You're swapping one problem for another, but you're getting more meat out of it than you would off of a typical trout. I mean,
you're going to get messy. You're going to get blood on you. There's going to be feathers everywhere, but it's no different than if you go hunting, if you go fishing, and you got to clean that kill afterwards.
So, you still have to process that kill. And the thing is, with the food security crisis, looming as it is and getting worse all the time, as it comes down the pike, like more people need this content. Like a lot of people are thinking, like, I would like to raise my own meat. Like, so we might be a couple years ahead of them on this process, because we started following like Ice Age Farmer a couple years ago. He was talking about like all the different market aspects of, like, say, soy. Like, hey, we had a bad soy crop, that's going to hit us. And sure enough, and he's always right. And he's always about 6 months ahead of the mainstream news. The news isn't going to tell you something's wrong until they find whichever way they're going to spin it.
The only time they're going to tell you something is wrong is when they actually have a plan to manipulate that fear and use it. They want us
when it becomes useful. Yes. But when it becomes a useful crisis, am I right?
They want to scare you into the mindset that they want you into. That if they ever say anything on the news that causes a panic and causes people to go out and do something like prep related, it's because they stand to benefit financially off of it.
Right. They've already bought stock in the bottled water companies before they tell you that, hey, it's a drought. You might want to get some bottled water.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Set yourself up to profit financially, then create the panic that creates the demand. And I mean, we're dealing with the same thing with oil right now. We could go on and on about that kind of crap.
All right. And this is just a little tentacle, really, of the oligarchy problem. Like, we have an oligarchy problem here in America. Whether it's right, whether it's left, it doesn't matter, because the oligarchs are funding both sides of the aisle to get whatever they want from whoever ends up in power. But how power? I mean, I might make some people mad right now, but I didn't see Trump as being in power while he was in power, because he seemed pretty freaking powerless. So who's really running this country?
Really, a president?
If a sitting president can't save America, then who can?
Follow the money. That's how you know who's in power. Follow the money. Absolutely.
And if the money leads back to a handful of individuals that own 95% of your food supply, let me tell you what, monopolies are a bad thing. It might be a good time to, and this is why we set up on chicken, because this is something that everyone can do. Not everybody has 50 acres or, to put cows on. Like I would do it if I had 5. 2. I'd probably get a cow if I had 2 acres. But not everybody has those acres, especially when people are mostly living in urban areas now. But you can run chickens on your lawn. That was the first video that I had to take off. I had 50 followers. I'm a nobody. But I posted my lawn tractor, the smaller model that I had made to replace the hoop coop, so my wife could pull it, my kids can pull it. It's lightweight, it's easy, and it was just all out of scrap material. Cost me next to nothing to build. And that video was the one that took off. It's up to like 60,000. I had 50 followers. I'm pushing close to 3,000. Like I'm picking up like a couple hundred followers a day. I'm on the up climb because these videos, this content is circulating, and that shows me the hunger that people have.
Yeah, exactly. People want to learn. People need this kind of stuff right now. People and
poultry is where you can come in for a lower initial investment. You can get into poultry to put some meat in your freezer than you can with cows. With cows, you got to have a little bit more money down and more space to put them. With poultry, anybody can get in for pennies.
They're expensive to feed and everything like that too. It's a big investment. It's a big animal. It's worth it. But if you've got to have the right setup, but like you said, 90% of people live in a city. So if you've got any kind of backyard, you can raise chickens. Now, depending on where you live, your city, your HOA, that's a whole different ball of wax. But if you can do it, even if you can only raise 8 birds, well, that's 8 more birds that you can raise at a time to have put in your freezer.
You raise them out to 8 weeks. Okay, 8 birds over 8 weeks. At 8 weeks, they're going to process out at about 6 pounds if you get the Ross 308. So what's 6 times 8? 48. There's roughly 50 pounds for your freezer. 50 pounds of chicken meat. No hormones.
Have you bought chicken from the store recently? Have you looked at the prices? Have you looked at the availability? And it's going to get a lot worse.
I've heard that it's getting expensive. I haven't been to the store myself to look at poultry, but I have heard that apparently it's getting competitive to where I could actually grow some out, and maybe the store can't compete with my price anymore. Maybe I'm the guy that's running. I couldn't compete with $1 a pound Tyson chicken when I started up doing pasture poultry. That kept me off store shelves. But now the store shelves are starting to outpace my prices on the homestead. But it doesn't even matter. Say if you're a city dwelling urbanite who has no yard to speak of, you can do something like this.
Okay.
This is a wicking pot. You could how many potatoes you could grow in this?
So for the folks listening to the audio side of this, he's showing he's got his chicken set up outside.
I'm gonna flip my camera around.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Go ahead. But no, this is awesome. He's showing he's got a wicking bed set up out here, right next to his chicken coops. I'm narrating a little bit for the audio side because I'm going to put the audio version of this up too. That's awesome.
You already know how these work, right? I'm sure you already do.
Yep.
Tell them how this works.
We should do an episode on them. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
there's a guy here, Kingston Greenhouses over here. This guy, Leon, Gardening with Leon. He's actually got a sizable YouTube following, and he donates the money from that to the schools around here. But this is a 20-gallon bucket, and he sells these for $35 already done. But he's got videos on his channel how to do these. Basically, it's just a plastic jug in the bottom of this that's got some holes in it, and it sits about 3 inches above the bottom or so, and it's got a pipe coming out. You put a tablespoon full of like 10-4-3 fertilizer down there in every gallon of water that you put down this, and this goes down to the bottom and it sits in there. So you can actually plant whatever you want. You can do the Three Sisters method with the corn, the squash, and the beans, where the beans climb the corn and the squash get the low bed, and you could do all three of that.
It's got that reservoir of water, so when you actually deal with drought, that
yes, you can walk away from this for 2 weeks. Yeah, you can walk away from this for 2 weeks, and it'll still be leaching its own water, its own, basically hydroponic type of water in the bottom. I don't know if it's properly hydroponic or not, but it's kind of a blend of those two systems, of soil and hydroponics.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I'm doing something similar with. I've got a 55-gallon barrel set up with this. It's next to a small pond, and it cycles water. It doesn't overflow every day or whatnot. It refreshes that. The bottom of that bed, but it's also getting I've got fish in that water too, so it's getting that it's kind of like a hybrid aquaponic sort of wicking bed type thing, but it's the same basic concept. Yeah, little chicks. Oh yeah. So are those some of your crosses, or is that some of the game birds?
These are my game birds. These are the game birds that we're hatching out. We're doing some crossed game birds because we just love them. They're so gorgeous.
They're fun chickens too. Yeah.
Here's my blue face. This is my
Oh,
blue-faced
nice.
cock, Vladimir.
Oh yeah, he's
Isn't
pretty.
he just gorgeous?
Oh yeah, looks like he's right off the front of
These
a
are my
cornflake
pets.
box. Oh
And
yeah, I love that.
she's half ASIL, half sweater, so she's kind of wild. We call her Crazy Betty. He's a high station cock, and then this guy, this is Scarface right here. He's kind of a rescue.
Say hello to my little friend, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and if you can't see the other side of his face from here, but he's got a pretty massive scar on one side of his face because yeah, they're kind of a wild bunch.
Yep. You got to keep them roosters
This is
separate
my
when it comes to
Spangled.
those game birds. Oh yeah. Oh, we lost you. All right. Well, he dropped out right there. Hopefully, he'll join us right back in just a minute. There, I bet you he lost signal while he's out there wandering around in his yard. So he's got some cool stuff going on, and we'll hopefully be able to cover a little bit more of that. And I'm curious about the temperament between his game birds and what he's got going on there. So, anyways, folks, go ahead and you can follow Johnny there over. It's just at RebelPoultry on TikTok. And I think he's trying to expand and get on some other platforms and stuff like that. He's talking about getting on Twitch and maybe YouTube and stuff like that too. So I'll be sure to update anything that I find out about that. Get him some followers, hopefully, and send some people his way. But yeah, so I mean, what he's raising for meat birds are your basic garden variety Cornish cross. He's just from my discussions before with him, doing a little bit of feed restrictions so that they don't grow so fast that they end up falling over and breaking their legs. So they're out there on pasture. He's running them in tractors, and he's got some of these hens get old enough to lay. Well, he's not been able to breed the Cornish cross to the Cornish cross, which is probably a good thing. My understanding is you probably won't get the optimal meat birds out of that because they're no longer now that's an F2 hybrid, and you lose some of your hybrid vigor. So they still probably be pretty good sized birds, but nowhere near as efficient. But when you add another large breed rooster to that equation, and you're breeding that to those Cornish cross that already have those genetics for that large fast growth. Oh, I think he is about there. And we're back. There we go. Hey, no problem, man. It happens.
I think I lost service out there by the game birds.
That's kind of what I figured. You're wandering around. So, yep, it happens to me all the time, man. I can't tell you how many times as the podcast host I've dropped out and people are just like, oh, I guess we'll talk about things. I was kind of pulling people in on your TikTok and then some of your breeding and everything like that. Well, how would you say, like what's the difference between raising these meat birds and your game birds? I know your game birds are way more full of attitude, way more lively, running around. Are those meat crosses even when you're feed restricting or whatnot? Are they just lazy laying around, or are they just chickens?
I mean, well, you saw how the meat birds are all kind of just laying around the waterer in the heat. Well, they're like that when it's not hot too. They won't travel. You can give them all the space in the world to go out and forage. That's what I didn't get to show you was we have a Premier 1 fence that goes on the outside of that hole where we saw all that dirt. That's the regular winter coop.
Okay.
They will leave that area to go out the open gate to all the grass, but a time or two a day. Once or twice a day, they'll go out there, run around, grab some bugs, but then they'll sit in the shade. The meat birds will go out there and sit in the shade. The layers will go out there and forage ravenously.
Yeah.
They'll love to get the bugs. The meat birds, they're not going to chase bugs around. They're going to sit there and wait for the bugs to come to them.
That's why the difference in temperament. Yep. Yes. Keeps them growing quick and keeps them tender too. That's what a lot of folks that I've talked to say. Oh no, the only reason those meat birds grow so fast is because you keep them in a small confined area and they can't move around. I was like, I don't think so. I think they just don't want to move around.
They don't want to move around. You can free range them, but they're not going to go very far from the coop.
Right. It's great. If you're raising something, if you're raising in your backyard, though, you don't want a bird that wants to roam far and wide.
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of virtue signalers out there that are like, well, I free range mine, so I'm a good person, and you're just a shitbag, how dare you keep them in cages? Well, I was like, okay, every time I see this, I'm like, do I need to show you pictures of what a coyote does to a chicken? I mean, do I need to show you what a raccoon does to a chicken? Everybody doesn't have the same predator pressures.
Right.
You might be that urbanite who's growing potatoes in 5-gallon buckets on your balcony, and you're not worried about, predator pressure. But out here in the country, we have that.
If you're raising in town too, you may not want to totally free range your chickens, have them hopping fences is pissing your neighbors off. You may not even want your neighbors to necessarily know.
These guys don't hop. These guys don't hop.
They won't, right? That's one thing I love about ducks as far as meat birds or whatnot. I love large breed ducks because you don't ever have them getting over a fence, you know.
No.
But I mean, I free range mine. It's about an acre fenced around the house or whatnot during the day, but they all go back in predator-proof pens at night because we learned real quick, you won't have any more chickens if you leave them outside. You can't just trust they're going to go they go in, head count, anybody missing, you know, anybody stuck sitting on eggs somewhere trying to stash them, you know, you get them all put away at night. And I don't blame anybody for raising them totally in a pen at all. It's just, it's a little bit more maintenance and it's a little bit more cleaning of those coops if they're in there all the time. But sometimes that's what you got to do. When I lived in town, I raised quail on my back porch, even though we weren't supposed to have any in town. But good luck knowing I have quail, unless you know. The only people who knew were my direct neighbors, and I bribed them with eggs. So
there you go.
Exactly.
We've handed eggs out to all of our neighbors just to cover the sound of our roosters crowing. Here, you want some eggs? Boom! Here's you a whole flat of eggs.
Nobody complains.
They're overpriced right now, but here you go. Here's a free flat.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's a lot of homestead shaming and a lot of gatekeeping. You've been seeing me get some gatekeepers in there. When it came to the meat birds, all the gatekeepers came out to say you can't. But even when you're doing, you know, like just regular type of homesteading, you have people come out, and if you're not doing it their way, then they're cast blame and shame, and you know, I don't know if it makes them feel good or whatever, but like, I'm not here to shit on anybody. Like if I could free range all my birds, I would. If I could let loose just a wild flock of game fowl to live free in the trees out back, I would, and I still might.
Right. So with your
but the thing is, everybody kind of has to be trusted to know where they're at in life and where their land is at, what their pressures are, what their resources are, and every different homesteader is going to make the choice that's right for them. Everybody else needs to just let them do it because it's still better than Python.
More important, I think, that people are doing something than worrying about how you're doing it or how somebody else is doing it. Stop complaining and go out and
nobody should be worried about what the next guy is doing. Everybody should be worried about, are my potatoes growing in my 5-gallon bucket?
Yes, exactly.
Will I have potatoes when there's no potatoes at the store to put with my chicken when there's no chicken left at the store? You know, do I have friends that are raising beef that I can trade chicken for beef and make sure that I maintain my family's well-balanced diet through barter trade with other homesteaders? Maybe I should be networking and being nice to other homesteaders so that we can establish, you know, a copacetic trade.
Learn from each other, be able to trade back and forth, things that I can produce one thing that you can't produce, and you can produce something that I can't or don't want to.
But the internet so far has not been a space that has supported good manners, and a lot of people are a little rude online where they probably wouldn't be if they were in person.
Well, yeah, you can get away with a lot. There's a level of anonymity there that makes people kind of cocky. They feel like they can say things that they would never say to your face.
Yeah, just even the little snide remarks about, well, yeah, you're not doing it right. That'll never work, and just those shitty comments that people wouldn't make if they were in the yard looking at the birds. You know, and mine are like, you've seen my birds already, how big they are in relation to normal sized birds, and these are just half Ross 308. If we would have artificially inseminated, because we found out that was the thing that you had to do. If you I'm not trying to milk a rooster. I mean, it may come to that.
I'm not into that.
It may come to that someday, but
right.
I'd rather maybe get my wife to do it.
I think what you're doing is probably, honestly, a little bit better than trying to breed Cornish cross, because then you're taking already a hybrid and breeding it back to the same hybrid, so you start to lose that initial hybrid vigor, I think, in that F2. I'm not sure. I've never tried it, but my understanding is you would probably see a decrease overall in performance, but breeding it back to another large breed, you're keeping that hybrid vigor, so you probably are getting faster growing birds than you would be if you were doing straight Cornish cross to Cornish cross.
Well, we actually did it to slow it down, though, because like here's the thing. It wasn't really convenient when you work full time and you have a homestead and you're raising your meat birds or whatever. Like you come up on processing weekend because you have to schedule it for your weekend because you're off work. So this is when I'm going to process these 50 ass birds.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it is a chore. It is a whole fucking day. Okay, part of my language. It's a whole freaking day process. You're gonna be out there drinking beer with your buddies, getting her done all day. Then.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're about to make a mess all day long.
So kind of what I started doing just to keep it easy was at week 7, pull the biggest roosters and process those. So and out of 50, I have to do like 10 or 15 just to get a few out of the way. So that way on the big processing day, then there's a few out of the way. But here's the thing, so that's 2 weekends now. 2 weekends. If you want to get ahead of weekend at week 8, then you start with the big ones at week 7. Now that's 2 weekends that you've eaten up. Right. And if you don't get everything done on the second weekend, now you're going to go week 9. But here's the thing, past week 9, if you've fed them the most you can feed them and got your max feed conversion out of them to get the most meat possible from your corporate meat bird that you bought for about
the shortest amount of time. Yep.
Yeah, if you've done it that way, they're going to start dying if you miss the window.
They're going to start breaking legs, having heart attacks, just basically dying of chronic obesity at that point.
And stupidity. I've had them die of stupidity. Like I had one put her neck, and I liked her. She was my friend. I called her Crooked Foot because she was born with a little crooked foot. But she put her head, there was a space between the bottom of the chicken tractor and the dirt. And she saw a bug, and she put her head in that gap. And couldn't figure, and she never figured out to back up. She could have just backed up, but she kept going for that bug, and then she saw freedom, and I guess tried to get out or something. But she like strangled to death because she never backed up.
Yep, they find interesting ways to die. I've seen kinds of crazy shit. Not too long ago,
it was like watching Final Destination. Have you ever seen that movie, Final Destination?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
that's what meat birds are like on week 10.
Oh, I know. So not even just meat birds, but even especially the large breed. Okay, so outside in our place, we got I had an old chair sitting out there, and there was a jacket like a hoodie that got thrown on the chair, sitting outside. I'm like, it needs to come in and get done for laundry or whatnot. Didn't think anything of it. Well, some of these hens decided to go up and start laying eggs on the chair. Like, okay, whatever. And it was weird. All of a sudden, one of the hens was missing. One of the large Brahma hens, just missing. Couldn't find it for a couple days. Walking to the front of this outbuilding where this chair is sitting, I keep smelling something. Like, why do I smell something dead? There's probably something under the building. What the heck? No, somehow this chicken got itself in the sleeve of this jacket, which fell off the chair. And you look down, and there was the head of a chicken just laying dead, upside down, hanging inside just slid down the sleeve and died. Got stuck in there. And nobody knew for like 2 days. Didn't know where the heck this chicken went. He just got in the sleeve of a jacket, hanging off a chair, and died. Like, how do you even
Final
do
Destination.
That? Yeah. They find creative ways to die.
That was kind of why we wanted just the mortality rate was why we wanted to cross them, so that way we would be able to leave them alive longer at our leisure. Because where is a chicken going to stay the freshest? In the pot, alive. In the can, alive. Yeah, you're right.
Storage issue there too. You don't have to refrigerate a live chicken.
You don't have to refrigerate a live chicken.
Yeah,
he gets it. Everybody.
Exactly. People always ask, how do you store your meat? Well, I prefer on the hoof or on the foot or whatever, on the feather. You don't have, if you have an animal that you don't have to process them all now, or they will die if you don't process them, that's actually sustainable.
That's what we wanted. That's why we did the cross. But meanwhile, everybody's like, oh, you couldn't do it with a pure. No, I could do it with a pure. Like, I chose not to because I don't want to milk a rooster, and I want a more sustainable homestead bird that I can keep alive at my leisure and harvest when I want. And so maybe it'll lay some eggs. If I don't harvest it right away, it'll actually lay me some eggs.
Right. So what breed of rooster are you using now as your stud rooster for this cross?
He was supposed to be a Brahma. When we got him, he was a chick, and he was supposed to be a Brahma. And then he started popping like a barred rock pattern. And we talked to the lady we got him from, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe the barred rock rooster might have got in there."
Does he have feathered feet?
No, that's the thing. He doesn't have the feathered feet. Yeah, he's got. I didn't want that though. Like I wanted to. I was wanting to cross. There are such things as non-feathered feet Brahmas. Some of those have been bred, and because I actually wanted to set out and do that. And then I found out it had already been done, so the ship had done sailed. But because and from the same lady, we got a bunch of barred rocks. They were supposed to be barred rocks and had feathers on their feet. And then we had this Brahma had some barred rock pattern that didn't have feathers on his feet, but that was a boon for him because that was why we kept him.
Right.
So
right.
he is barred rock and Brahma. We don't know how much of which.
He's probably got a combination of the two. Yeah. The what I'm doing right now mostly, and I raise them for layers, but they get big enough to be decent meat birds too. They just don't grow super fast, which I'm okay with because I'm not trying to grow fast meat. But my favorite mix so far right now have been Brahmas mixed with the Turkins or naked necks. And I finally got one of those that I've got the pure. He's got the 2 copies of the gene, so he's full pure naked neck. Doesn't have the little bow tie. And I tell you what, they grow a little bit quicker. They're weird looking birds, but they're so cool. And they don't get sick like the regular. Around here, the fowl pox are really bad in the spring. Every breed that I got when we first started doing this, half your chickens that end up dying. They get sick and die. And I got tired of that mess. I started buying only local chickens, breeding my own stuff, breeding only ones that stayed alive. And now, I mean, we've got like 90% survival rate. And these things are dynamite. So I like seeing people doing that. You're making me want to try to get some Cornish cross and breed them, but I don't need more chickens.
Well, I've offered. Some people got at me over the messaging app or the messaging side of the TikTok app. They're like, "Hey, do you have hatching eggs?" And I was like, "I'll give you some hatching eggs."
Right.
You know, anybody who wants some hatching eggs, I'll just give you some, and I'll keep track of who's got them. Yeah. Next year, I say, breed what I give you. They're going to be half siblings the first time around, but then keep a rooster back next year. I'll trade you a rooster for a rooster, and then we'll be double mated.
Right. Exactly.
Then we'll be double mated, and we'll lock in the genes.
So you're right. You're right about on the border of Oklahoma and Texas, right? You're right.
Yeah, we're on Lake Texoma. We're over here on beautiful Lake Texoma.
Right. So you're not too. I mean, you're a ways out from me, but you're not too terribly far. If I ever make it up that way, maybe I'll try to. If you want, maybe I'll bring you a rooster or bring you some eggs of mine, and you can add some of that to your genetics if you want to play with them. Yeah, absolutely. So, while I'm thinking about it, then I know you're on TikTok and everything like that. If folks want to follow you or they want to get in contact with you, if they're in your area, they want to learn some stuff. How else would people get a hold of you? Is there you on any other social media platforms?
Facebook. We have a page up. We have a page up on Facebook called Pastured Poultry of Texoma.
Okay.
We haven't used it all year, but it's there, and we do get the messages from it.
Right. Well, yeah.
So now that we're on the TikTok platform. Right. TikTok is just more dynamic as far as being able to show direct, video. Like I don't want to sit and type. I don't want to type a post on Facebook because that feels outdated. It's just, but you can reach us there still.
Oh, awesome. Well, and if you want, you can send me the link to that later on. I can put it in the show notes, and if people want to try to follow you there too. So yeah, awesome. Well, no, definitely. Everybody craps on TikTok, but it's where a lot of the followers are. It's not all dancing girls. There's actually a lot of cool content out there right now. And I've been seeing a ton of people talking about exactly this kind of thing. A lot of people who have come from other platforms are starting to get into the TikTok thing now. A bunch of other creators I work with have been jumping in there too. I've been trying to focus on it a little bit more, but it's one more thing. But one thing I've been seeing a ton of on there is this, and I know you were talking to me about this a little bit the other day, how all these food shortages and people showing how a lot of this is being manufactured. People are being paid to kill off the crops, paid to kill off their animals. We're having plants being burned down at a rate we've never even seen. And we're just acting like, it's just accidentally all the food production is being burnt down.
No, it is no accident.
It's not an accident.
So for farmers some of these multi-generational family farms who have been taking the subsidies for generations to make their tractor payments. You see this farm bill every year in the Senate, and they're like, we got to help the farmers. Well, those are the farmers that they're talking about, the ones that take the subsidies. And the ones that take the subsidies, now that you've got this thing hanging over your head, or you can't make your tractor payment if you don't have that subsidy. So the government is coming along and giving them a letter, which they're showing people. They're on their TikTok showing the letter, and it's called a destruction notice. And the government is telling them, or basically, hey, you will accept 150% of the cash value of your crop to destroy your crop, or you won't have a subsidy to make your tractor payment next year.
And they're basically being told that either you can go ahead and destroy it, we will come in and Agent Orange it.
Yeah, pretty much like you will destroy your crops or we will destroy your business. They have them by the balls. Once you take the money, once your business model is dependent on that corn subsidy or whatever subsidy it is, once you're making your giant international tractor payment with that subsidy, you have to have it to stay in business or you're done. It's too big a portion of your income. And so that's not sustainable. And I mean, and the thing is, I don't have a tractor payment. I don't have a giant tract of land, but if a million people all just kept a little nook and cranny garden, a little nook and cranny farm on their little patch of grass out back, and you can, like I said, like the bucket I showed in the Wiccan bucket, you can grow potatoes, corn, whatever you want in that bucket. It is mobile. You can move it around. You don't have to water it for a couple of weeks. You can do it in your balcony in your apartment complex in your major city. You can do it. You can grow some potatoes. You can grow chickens on your suburban backyard lawn. And if you don't have any roosters, they're not going to crow. It doesn't even matter if the HOA don't like it, because who's going to know? Especially if all neighbors get free eggs while eggs are super high at the store. They appreciate that shit. Now is the time to rebel. Now is the time to start growing your own food, because this whole 95% model where 95% of the food production comes from this handful of oligarchy-controlled corporate food processing facilities that are spontaneously setting themselves on fire.
Randomly this
sustainable.
Why?
Randomly. 10,000 cattle. Oops. I don't know what happened to 10,000 cattle in Kansas last week. Oh, it must have been the heat. It wasn't even 100 degrees. It was under 100 degrees. But it's like
how they're all standing in the same spot, not in a pen. It didn't look like a feedlot. Nobody went out there and drug them all out and lined up. I don't think from the video. It looked like they were all just standing there as a herd and dropped dead. If you've ever been around cattle, worked with cattle in any capacity, cows don't do that. There's not a reason that a whole herd just falls over dead. And if they were hot, they'd be fell over dead next to an empty water trough.
Here's my whole deal with it, though. Like, okay, on any given instance where this has happened, they can say, oh, well, this was just this, or oh, well, that was just that. But you can't tell me that the statistics don't tell you something else is going on, when usually we lose maybe 1 or 2 a year, and now we're already pushing 20 or 30. 20 or 30 major food manufacturing institutions have gone up in smoke just the first half of this year alone. Like it doesn't happen that often by accident.
No. It makes you question who stands to benefit from creating a food shortage, from creating a fuel shortage, from creating all of this panic. Well, it ain't us. And that's the thing. We can sit back and be victims of this crap, or we can do something. And this is what you can do.
It's almost like we're the ones under sanctions. Sanctions are a form of siege warfare. And so we're talking about, we're going to put sanctions on the evil Russians for kicking the evil dickhead out of, Zelensky out of Ukraine.
Yep.
Like I said, that's not our business. Let's stay out of it. But just let them handle up, because the place could use some new leadership anyway.
We're not exactly making it better.
The sanctions on Iran. We've had sanctions on Iran for how long now? They can fill their whole tank up for $3 in Iran.
Yeah.
So who are the sanctions really on?
Yeah. That's the crazy thing.
I mean, I'm paying $100 to fill my tank. The Iranians are paying $3. We got just as much oil as they got.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm in Texas. I can spit and hit an oil rig here. Don't tell me that we don't have oil. Yeah. So why is it cheap in Iran? And why is it so expensive here? Yeah. Where's our oil going? Yeah.
The Iranian leadership is just allowing the production to happen and letting their people just have it and be okay. And for a bunch of terrorists, that's pretty noble of them, I guess.
Okay, right. I am parked right now next to in a college parking lot. There's a historical museum and a park out here. There is a shitload of free-range ducks and chickens running around out at this park. Okay, now I could go down to the local HEB, and chicken is ridiculously expensive if it's on the shelf. Why is that? There's chickens right there. Why is it expensive? There's not a supply issue. There is a processing shortage, yes, and there's a whole lot of people who just don't understand or aren't willing to do this themselves. But this is what we can do. And people need to pay attention, because the world is getting really, really weird. And if you're not in a position to help, if you're not able to at least be somewhat involved in the production of your food, things could get really bad for you. We're dealing with Great Depression type bullshit right here. People need to start
I
thinking about.
sent you yesterday. We got to get that lady on the show. What's her name? She left a cute comment on one of my videos about how I should do a piece on how the Americana roosters or the Americana breed is mislabeled. I thought, well, that'd be cute. When I looked at her channel, and I was like, holy crap! Like she's got a way edgier, channel than what I gave her credit for. I thought she was some cute, crazy chicken lady, but she's like following the cops to the dump who just stole somebody's chickens. And like filming them like
SWAT team basically coming in like raiding her place, no warrant, going through her house, going through her phone while she's not home, stuff like that, taking her chickens, killing them off, and then throwing them. Yeah, she's following the truck as they're going to the dump because they're worried about the environmental impact of her having chickens in her backyard.
And then filming the carcasses at the dump being eaten by wild birds. Being eaten by wild birds at the dump. Why did they not incinerate this biological threat?
Worried about
why was it not incinerated?
As she's following this city truck, she's filming like blood and fluids from these chickens leaking out of the back of the truck on the road, and you're claiming it's for environmental safety that they're coming in and killing your
dead chickens on scene. When they tore that farm up or that homestead, they left dead chickens pinned under broken nest boxes that they kicked over. They left carcasses there. You can't tell me this is about biosecurity.
There's a war on meat, and they do not want people to be self-sufficient. They want you to be slaves to the rest of the system. And
you must report to Walmart on time for your chicken supply. You want meat? Present your card, sir. Report to Walmart in the time slot you've been assigned.
Show your papers,
please.
And we
you have your chicken papers?
They tried with the vaccine passport type stuff, and you know what? Finally, they realized that enough people weren't going to buy into that bullshit. So now, what's the newest scare? Well, you can't really.
For birds.
How do you control people? How do you control people? You control them through what?
Money,
food, medicine, fuel, and guess what? What's short? We didn't have a food shortage, but we created food shortages. We created panic. We created fear. We created a reason to charge exorbitant prices for what we do produce.
Yeah, it's funny though. How come inflation never touches wages? Why aren't my wages getting inflated along with everything else? What the fuck? Pardon me, pardon my French. Why? Fucking why?
This is not a PG channel. You're cool. But yeah, no, that's exactly great point. I mean, minimum wage has been what, $7.25 for a long time.
Yeah, never seen inflation there. Inflation never touches wages. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's insane. Oh, it's weird. It's like, so inflation just means our money's worth less, right? Okay, well that means that I should be getting more of it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. It's stupid.
No, it's a zero-sum dwindling game.
There are no shortage of problems right now with the world. I mean, as we can see by everything we've been talking about here. But the fun thing about it is there are solutions, and the solutions are not going to come from the government. We can't sit around and wait for these guys to fix this problem for us. So we've got to all take personal responsibility and do something ourselves.
Solution this week. I have an amazing opportunity. Okay, but first let me say, everybody has an opportunity. Everybody has something that they can do, and everybody doing something, that is the solution to the food shortage, and that is exactly why stormtroopers are kicking indoors over in California to take chickens away, because they do not want the problem solved.
Nope, they don't. They want the problem.
The solution is you. The solution is you. You watching this podcast right now. You, sir, are the resistance.
Exactly. The peaceful insurrection, as someone I know said.
Yes. See, I'm a nobody. I don't have a bunch of resources. Okay? But I've got a friend who owns a restaurant. He pays a bunch of money to have all of his trash taken away every week. I could cut his trash in half if he has his employees separate off all of the food waste that would normally just go into his dumpster. So for 2 dumpsters a week, he could go to 1 dumpster a week and save money by giving me his food waste. And then I could take that food waste, and I got another friend who's got a bunch of sandy loam type of acreage that he could really use some soil improvement on, and he wouldn't mind doing a compost pile.
Awesome. Well, that's perfect.
See? So You know what people don't know about chickens? What people don't hear. Here I am in the middle of this.
They're also making compost.
Yeah. Chickens can eat trash. You don't have to feed them.
And you don't have to turn your compost.
Non-GMO, non-soy, non-corn, chick starter. Like, you don't have to feed them name brand organic feed. Like, you can have to. Trash. Like the Romans fed them trash in return for eggs.
And we think of trash. We think of something that we don't want around, but you don't realize that when it comes to restaurant waste, a lot of that is just straight up food. It just goes to waste. It's just
even as it rots. Even when you toss it out, you toss it into a pile for the chickens, and even as it rots, the stuff that the chickens won't eat or don't want,
breaks
the bugs will eat it.
Yeah,
the bugs will eat the stuff the chickens don't want. And then you know what eats bugs? Chickens. Yeah. So the whole thing is a win, and it breaks down into great soil for gardening that you can then just move to another site and then garden with. And this guy's pasture is going to be amazing by the time we're done. Our feed bill is zero, and it's just all about networking. Your whatever resources that you don't think that it matters, you can put them together with resources that other people have that they don't think it matters, or they don't think it's a huge opportunity. But you can find ways to get in the middle and then bring the people together who can make things happen. And we're going to funnel all of these eggs and broilers into two charities operating through two churches. The two gentlemen involved, the one who has the land and the one who has the restaurant, they both have a church. One does a hot meal for the homeless every week. The other one does a food bank. Okay, so we're going to cut up some broilers to put into the hot meal, and we're going to send some eggs over to the food bank so people can put those eggs in their fridge.
So you're taking all of this. You're taking a waste product. You're taking a piece of land that is being wasted, its potential is being wasted, improving that by combining all of these things, and your outputs are literally food that can go to the hungry. So there's absolutely no reason to not do this. Everybody involved stands to benefit. And if you did nothing, food gets wasted. Things get thrown away. Land sits and goes to crap.
What happened?
Oh yeah.
Maybe just think it's still off the couch. Poor fella.
Oh, everybody okay there?
He's a heathen. Right. Anyway, I went and got a 275-gallon IBC tote yesterday to go on to a really crappy old trailer that I got set, little 16-foot trailer that I got sitting in the yard. I still haul stuff with it, but it ain't the greatest trailer. It's just going to be a disposable farm trailer now. It's going to be my watering unit. I'm going to hook it up with that. I'm going to put that tote on it, and then I'm going to hook up a little water pump, like maybe a Yamaha or something. And then that way I can draw water right up out of a pond, because chickens can drink filtered pond water just fine. I'll filter it because I'm not a monster, I guess. Yeah. But it'll be a remote site, and if they ever kick in my doors looking for my chickens, they won't be here.
Right? Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Man. Yeah, that's a great opportunity. And that's the thing. People need to think outside of the box. Like myself, any of my will be food waste. None of it's wasted. It goes to the pigs. It goes to the birds.
Yes.
It's a great way to. What happened to all the green stuff? Recycle. Well, all of that waste, that stuff that goes away to the garbage, that's a resource. And you got to realize people in third world countries, they don't throw things away. There is no such thing as food that goes into garbage. They find a way to either use that or feed their livestock.
Upcycle it into something. Somebody's going to eat it because they ain't got enough to go around already.
A huge thing that was back, I know, in the Depression, in some third world countries, they do this. They would have, they would take a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket, and drill a bunch of holes in it, and they would pick up roadkill, throw it in there, hang it from a tree where their chickens, and the maggots fall from that. It smells terrible, but those maggots are sanitary. They're sanitized. They're clean. Those birds eat them.
Those chickens.
If you let those chickens do their own thing, they're going to chase down and eat bugs. Vegetarian eggs are the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Unless you keep that chicken in a bubble, trust me, it's eating a bug in its life. They're little velociraptors. They will go out and kill shit. That's what they do. And ducks,
they actually absorb feed better when it's fermented. They actually prefer fermented feed. Yeah, it's better for them, and they'll take it's another 15% uptake. and I forget, I can't think of the big word right now, but their guts are able to process 15% more of the feed when it's been fermented, sitting underwater for 3 days.
Yep.
Cover your feed with water. 3 days later, boom, that one's ready to feed. So you could do like a 3-bucket system where every day you're filling a bucket and every day you're taking a bucket out of the system, but they prefer rotten stuff. So, I mean,
exactly. Well, if you've ever done compost without birds, if you just do compost the regular way, do you go out there with a fork and you turn it every couple of days? I mean, it's okay. It's work. It's not hard work. You should still do it. But when you run chickens over that waste, they do all of that for you. If you leave a chicken alone, what's it do? It scratches, it turns, it digs around,
turn it right up.
It turns all of it for you. They do a perfect job at it. You don't have to do anything but let them go eat that compost, you know?
We've got some magic happening over here.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Is that one of the meat birds, or is that something?
I can't open this right now without losing the humidity that's in it.
Right.
But it looks like it's either a game fowl or a meat bird. I can't read the label. We mark them. Like this guy right here. See, he's pipped. See, that guy's pipped. That S is for Sally. That's one of my game fowl hens. So that S is one of hers, and it's pipped, and I see it's moving.
Yep, I think it's one of the game.
This one here just popped out.
Color, so who knows? But yeah. Yep.
I think it's
I love watching them hatch. What kind of incubators do you guys use? Do you guys have a preference on a certain type, or what would you recommend to people?
Don't get the Little Giant. We started with the Little Giant. I guess they have a pretty high failure rate where the temperature regulator fails on those. But this came from Atwoods. I don't even know what brand it is. It's whatever the Atwoods brand is. We use this one. This was our old egg turner. Now we just use it as a hatching spot. After we don't need to be turned anymore, we put them in here.
You're locked down, basically.
The humidity. But then we got this bad boy right here.
Oh, I've seen those. I've looked at them. They're those double layer ones.
This is a Jado.
Chinese ones you see on Amazon and eBay. Yeah, I've always wondered how they hold heat because they're just.
I love the styrofoam that it came in on the bottom. I guess this wasn't part of it, but this was what it was packed in. I thought, well, if I leave this on there, it'll insulate it some because I had the same problem. This is just basically Tupperware. It's a Tupperware incubator.
Yep.
But it stays at the right temperature, Celsius, for some reason. I don't know how to change that to Fahrenheit. We're at 36% humidity. I'm gonna have to drop some water in there this morning. It was at like 50 yesterday, but it's got these neat little ports right here. It's got three water chambers along the side, and they go in and cover the floor. So the floor is divided into 3 of those. Problem I'm having though is large eggs turning sideways in here and having to come and like turn them.
Huh. Okay, so those they just have little rollers that they lay on. They don't actually have the cups that.
No, they're they're all sitting on these rollers. Okay. And when you open the door and it cools off,
it starts yelling at you.
It's supposed to scream at you, which is okay. I'm okay with it.
Because then if something happens and you start dropping in temp, and you're going to hear it screeching in the next room.
Oh, there's a cool idea for anybody that's got PVC pipe laying around. That's actually a feeder.
PVC pipe feeders. Yeah, that's a great setup right there too. Well, have you done any videos on like build outs or things like that, or your hoop coops or whatnot, like kind of tutorial videos, or put some plans up or anything like that?
I just started showing people the hoop coops that we have, just to kind of, and like I wish I had done video on like step by step how to build them, and do like the sped up video where it shows how you slap something together. That would have been cool to do a time lapse. In the future I will, but let's keep filming like what we got going on. Like the next thing I'll probably film is outfitting this trailer for the mobile watering rig and how cheap it is. And anybody that's around here, they can get that 275 gallon water tote. I researched it online trying to look for one for sale before I went. Like, I wanted to know what the pricing was like before I went to Kingston Greenhouses to ask about it, because I was probably going to get there anyway. I heard they were cheap, but I checked it out. They were like $800. You want to buy one brand new from Lowe's? They're like freaking $800. I'm like, you get like what you said, water to. I mean, money to just throw away on just gathering water. That's the simplest thing in the world. Not to spend $1,000 freaking dollars.
All right,
anyway,
you can find food grade barrels and IBC totes for a really good price.
$1.25 at Kingston Greenhouse.
Nice.
Old man Leon with the gardening with Leon, that guy's channel, that guy's place, Kingston Greenhouse. That's where I got it at, and for $125.
That's not bad. It's not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Huh. Well, the
Free
other
would
thing
have been
I've seen,
ideal, but I couldn't find it for free. I'll use anything for free that I can find, and that's the frugal homesteading part. Like it, you will learn to use whatever you can find. Whatever you can find that's free, you will find a project to use it on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have so much, anytime I'm somebody who's doing some home improvement, old processor I worked at, anytime they'd add on, there would always be scraps of lumber, scraps of tin, stuff like that. And I'd be like, hey, if you're going to throw it away, I'll take it. I will find a way to haul that stuff home. And I end up using that. I've built entire coops, roofed entire like 10 by 10 dog kennel style coops and whatnot, just from scraps that I had laying around. My one, and I need to get it together. I threw a little piece of gutter up on the front of mine, and I really want to do a rain catchment off of my one coop that actually just goes back into, some like little watering cups or whatnot. So I've always got that fresh rainwater for them. It's just less for me to have to fill. So add that to my list of projects. Anything you can do like that. I mean, if you set up a roof on a coop, try to do water catchment, because water's not cheap.
Why not? I mean, water isn't free. Water is part of your bill, and you're back to your independence argument now too, where we're all part of this hydraulic empire where the oligarchs have the ability to turn on or off the flow of everything.
Yeah.
Or they can just restrict the flow to drive up the price. So they could turn the water off at any time if you haven't figured out how to draw water out of a pond and filter it.
Right,
They could
some areas where you're not even allowed to collect your own rainwater, which if that's not telling you we got a problem.
Like, why? Why can I not have the water that mighty Skyfather has given to me today?
Right. Oh, because they say that the state owns that water. No, you don't own the rain. Shut the hell up,
Does the king also own the sun and the sky and moon?
Give them a moment, they'll try. Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's like that here. I get folks all the time. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling people go out and poach deer or whatnot. I process deer for a living a good part of the year. I got to keep all my stuff up and keep track of tags and stuff. But I've had landowners. I have had law enforcement officers sit there and tell me, why is it that I'm not allowed to go and shoot the animals that live on my own property, my own acreage that I feed? Doesn't make any sense. Oh, I'm sorry. You can't hunt the queen's deer. But that's the world we live in.
No hunting in the king's forest.
Yeah, exactly.
And property taxes ain't nothing but the king's rent.
Here we are in the land of the free, and we're being told the same bullshit, being taxed out of our minds. Same bullshit, And what's the solution? The solution isn't everybody get together, grab your scary rifles, and let's go march on the White House. That's not going to solve the problem. That's going to get a bunch of people put in cages or dead. What you can do is start doing what you can do. It doesn't matter what it is. Do something. Like, okay, if you don't have a square inch of grass that is under your control, if you live in an apartment and you have a balcony, you can raise quail. They sound like songbirds. The roosters that crow sound like a songbird. If you have an extra bedroom, an extra closet, you could raise rabbits. I know folks who literally raise rabbits, and then on a 1/10 of an acre in their backyard, they raise enough fodder and forage to feed those rabbits for free. Now, I don't get away with the rabbits very well down here because in my area, it's so dang hot, and I pretty much have to keep them indoors, keep them air conditioned half the year if I was going to breed them. But that's another great resource for folks.
Well, how many friends do you have that have the medical cards or whatever, and they're growing however many marijuana plants they're allowed to grow? They will find space in their apartment. They will outfit a closet.
Oh, yeah.
Put fucking aluminum foil up that wall. They will figure out a way to get it done to grow some weed. But
you can't figure
when it comes to like, hey, there's not going to be any potatoes or any squash at the store. Maybe you want to feed yourself with something like, oh, I don't know where I'd put a garden. Like, motherfucker, you got weed growing in your closet.
Exactly. You could go on Amazon and you could buy a grow tent for growing weed in your house. And people figure it out. People do it all the time. You got people in high-rise buildings growing tons of marijuana
but we can't figure out how to grow some herbs on the windowsill. We can't figure out how to grow some sweet potatoes.
You'll figure it out. If it's important to you, you'll find a way.
If you are
the problem
motivated,
is, it won't become important to a lot of people until they're actually hungry, and then it's too late.
Right. Now's the time
that's
to start learning.
what I'm trying to scream into the internet world, into the inner space. Don't wait until you're hungry, stupid.
No, because if you went down to Tractor Supply right now and you bought some chicks and you come home and go, shit, let me find somewhere to put these things, start raising these birds. How long is it until you either get an egg or a meat chicken out of those birds? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a bit.
We've done it though. We've actually strung up on too many birds and had to do a little bit of building. Had to figure out, okay, we need to make some space for them. We need to fucking make them comfortable, or we need maybe a better water, or we need this or that, or. But there's no perfect way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. The only thing that is wrong about doing it is not starting to do it and then ending up dependent on the oligarchy for your food supply, and then wondering
if you've never done it. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw up. You're going to kill birds, and there's a learning curve. You're going to have a hard time getting there. But if you don't start now, you're already behind the curve right now.
We're behind the curve
now. It's shit's going to get bad, but you need to learn how to do it. So give yourself the opportunity to make those mistakes while you don't need to have those birds. If you wait until you need that food now, you might start to death before it's ready. Exactly. So now's the time to learn. Now's the time to start doing something. And we're in June. Pretty much anywhere that you can survive as a human, you can start growing shit now. You're not going to go out in your backyard in Texas and start growing lettuce right now. You're going to have to wait till fall to start doing that shit. But you can put together a coop and start raising some chickens, some rabbits, some quail. You can start growing people don't realize this. Sweet potatoes. Go on down to your grocery store. You leave those sweet potatoes sit around too long, they start growing on you and whatnot. Oh, it's too late. Throw it away. No. Take those little slips, pop them off, put them in a glass of water in your window, let them root, start growing those things. You may not grow a whole crop of sweet potatoes to eat. That's awesome. Oh, yep. Staring at the eggs here. Meat bird eggs.
That's a meat bird. That's a duck. Look at the size comparison on those.
That is a big meat bird egg. Because duck eggs are a pretty good size. Yeah. What kind of ducks y'all raise? Pekins?
Pekins.
Yep,
well, we started with a couple of boerborgs, which looked just like pekins, and then we couldn't find any more boerborgs, so we got some pekins. Right. Now we don't know which ones were which because they're identical.
Yeah, exactly.
We have white ones. We have white ones.
If you're looking for fast meat production, though, Pekin ducks are awesome, and I think they finish out about as fast as Cornish cross, and they're messier. You got to deal with the water situation, but ducks are really easy to contain, especially the large ones. Yes. And the thing with that is they lay great. Like the meat varieties of ducks, like your pekins and your ruins and whatnot, they lay as well as the heavy production laying chickens. And their eggs are freaking awesome. But they also will fit
just like a chicken.
Old. Yeah, 8-10 weeks old. That's a full-size duck. That is a chunk of meat, So I love raising ducks.
Here's the pros and cons that we've had with ducks. On the con side, we finally went and got a drake. We couldn't figure out why our breeding pair wasn't breeding, and then we find out it was because they were both females, so they were laying eggs, but they couldn't fertilize. They couldn't scissor and fertilize each other.
Right. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't identify as a drake. Yeah.
No, they couldn't identify as a drake and get it done. And that's not a jab.
Right. No, but it's just I'm not a biologist, but
So yeah, we had to go get a drake.
You gotta have both copies of
We had a problem with the drake. The drake killed two of you. Go play in the room like I told you. I didn't untell you to not play in the room. So go back. Go back. So anyway, the drake turned out he was a psychopathic chicken fucker. And he killed two of my meat birds. Yeah. He doesn't even want to mate with the ducks. Now he is, because we locked him up with a couple of duck hens. Right. So now he's like, oh, okay, I guess you'll do. You're the hottest girl at the party. So, but if he had his choice, he's chasing down chickens. So we had to separate him.
I think that a lot of times that happens when somebody if you hatch ducks and raise them with chickens, they'll kind of imprint on. I have one to do the same thing. I actually have a chicken that's a duck fucker right now. He doesn't want to mess with any of the other chickens. He was hatched out with a bunch of ducks and brooded with them. And those to him, that's a sibling. So he thinks that's one of mine, you know. And yeah, I tell you what, a duck, if you have a duck that tries to breed chickens, it's not pretty. Their anatomy is not the same, and that's a big bodied animal. Chickens are not built for penetration. Small thing. If you don't know, waterfowl.
But you know, at the same time, I kind of know. I get where he's coming from, because he's like, hey, nobody's ever been in there. I'm gonna be the first one. You know, like.
Right. He's trying to do what he's trying to do. So, but it's not so compatible in the chicken eggs, so that could be a problem. Yeah. And you know, the other thing with ducks is you've gotta restrict how many drakes you have, because ducks are in the gang rape. They will straight up break ducks to death. You know, you have too many drakes, they'll run as a pack.
If you don't have enough hens, it's a problem.
Yeah,
but here's the thing: we went and bought more hens for this damn drake, and he still kept trying to fuck the chickens. So I was like, bro, like,
it's not working.
Work with it. Like, this is not working out. So we've strung up on geese now. We got Sebastopol geese, and we like the situation with the geese. They're not aggressive toward the chickens at all, and they also they'll guard them. They alert to danger, and like they make them hawk proof, really, because the hawks are not going to come down and try to fight a big ass goose.
No. I've never seen the geese really come at the hawks or whatnot, but I have noticed I don't have the aerial pressure near as much as long as I have geese out there with them, because they see a bird that's bigger than them and they're like, I'll just skip it. Don't have that problem. Yeah. And a lot of people have geese and they say, oh, they're great guard animals. Not really. And they're not really the best at necessarily alerting that there's a problem, because they're always chattering and talking and whatnot. I'll hear the geese talking. You kind of tune it out. You don't pay much attention to it. But then when everything goes eerily silent, that's when I know there's a problem, because they'll just shut up. They'll like go to the front yard or the backyard.
Well, at night we know like when they had that raccoon, we missed that raccoon that killed our turkeys by seconds.
Right.
And the waterfowl were all looking in the direction that he ran. But we were alerted to that. Like, me and my wife were in the room laying down to go sleep, and then we just heard one loud quack.
Yep.
And then dead silence. So like that. Yep. So I knew that was one of the waterfowl giving an alarm. So like, I'm gonna go out there and check it out. I mean, they give the alarm, then they tuck down and try to hide, and they don't want to be. They don't want to be part of the action. You know what I mean?
They make an alert to make sure everybody else is aware of the situation, and then they do that shut up and silence, kind of duck and hide type thing. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you lost it, did it get into one of your pens, or did it was it reaching through the side?
It got over my Ranch Pro wire. I have a Ranch Pro wire strung around my field fence.
Okay.
And they were able to come over it because we were dragging a hose through the fence to water, and that hose, when it was pulled back, it hung up on the wire and grounded it out all day. So he was able just to climb over without getting shocked.
Right.
Now I got my Premier One fence back there strung up right around the outside of that fence gate.
Yeah.
So we can let them out on grass. And I had this last night. I said, why don't I take this thing that's supposed to hook up the next fence and just clip it to the wire?
Right.
Now I know it's hot. Boy, let me tell you what, that Premier One fence.
That stuff gets pretty hot.
Go grab that thing barefoot in the rain and just get you a.
It'll wake you up. You only do that one time. Yeah, I've thought about doing that. I've got so many dang trees in my place. I mean, I'll have the raccoons literally go up, jump from one tree to another, come down. They'll circumvent all that. But for my pens, I mean, I'm sure you've had it before. They'll reach right through chicken wire, pull something over to the side, and if they don't tear through it, they'll just eat something right through the fence. So I've had to resort to either small hardware cloth, or I'll get that expanded steel mesh that they make for steel lath for, you can get at the hardware store like 8 foot sheets.
Oh, yeah,
I put that stuff all around the base, and anywhere that a chicken or whatnot might roost near the side of a pen, I'll put that stuff all around there too, just so they can't reach through. And thankfully, I haven't had anything but snakes get into pens in the last couple years. As long as we keep an eye on things, you watch, make sure nothing's trying to dig under and stuff. But I've got to have everything locked up like Fort Knox at night, or I'll lose stuff because we're right on the edge of the national forest. Every predator in the state of Texas will come up in my backyard. I mean,
it's like a predator refuge.
Oh yeah, I've had raccoons are the worst. Possums have been bad. We've had foxes, bobcats, some kind of cat that we can't identify. That I think it's something that we're told doesn't exist in the state of Texas anymore. But that's the old government. Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure we've had a jaguarundi here, and everybody tells me that no, they've been extinct in the state of Texas since 1986. Blah blah blah. They just showed up on a camera, and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that shows up that should have showed up on a camera, but you're telling me I didn't see what I saw with my own eyes. I would have loved to got it on video, but I was too busy trying to keep it from killing my shit. I mean, when something comes up and kills a 30-pound live goose, bite to the neck, it's a cat. I saw it with my own eyes. It's a cat. It had a long tail. It is not a house cat. Too big to be a house cat. It was not a bobcat. So, but I would have killed it if I could have. Yeah, we've had all kinds of things that showed up. Honestly, probably the worst, though, has been stray dogs. Just wild dogs. Yes. We haven't had much of a coyote problem at our place, but they're out there. They're out there. You've got to protect your stuff. And even if you live in town, you've got to be able to have some kind of predator protection, or you're going to lose birds. That's probably the easiest mistake for people to make. They go out and buy a little quick coop from Tractor Supply or Atwoods or whatnot, throw it up there, and those
the little $800, $800 hardly any square foot coop.
It'll hold about 4 chickens. And, it's going to last about a week before something breaks into it. Yeah. So no, do yourself a favor and follow somebody who's actually doing this. Go and build a real coop. Build it yourself. That's going to be. You're going to eventually do it anyway. So just
save money.
Go ahead and do it.
And you're going to save money. You do it yourself. You do it better. You're going to save money. Them little cutesy, pet chicken coops. Those are for pet chickens. If you're going to spend $4 on a chicken, and then $1,000 on a coop, that's a pet. Right? Like that's not livestock.
That makes some really expensive meat.
Yeah. That's not part of my sustainable model. I'm sorry. I built mine out of 2x6s that was pulled off of a rail car that was being used as cribbing to hold down a whole bunch of ingots of zinc to keep them from sliding around. They took some 2x6s and cut an H, pounded them into the floor with like giant nails. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna pull these out, and there was like 2 boards stapled together. They're 6-footers though, so like, okay, what can I build within 6 feet? Chicken coops. Yep. Frame them out with these 2x6s. They're built stout, and then I used pallet slats to the first chicken coop that I built. I cut slats out of pallets because I saw how much it was for a sheet of plywood. I said $80.
Oh, I know, it's insane.
Freaking 8 feet of wall on a chicken coop. I'm not paying $80 just to put an 8-foot barrier. Exactly. So I pounded a bunch of pallets apart, and I took a bunch of screws and the pallet slats. And I just put a slat down, zip, slat, zip, slat, zip, until the whole thing was just covered in pallet slats, walled in. The whole floor was like that too. I used thicker stuff for the floor, and But anything that you got laying around, like you said, the sheet metal you were bringing home from work, golden. It's all golden.
If you want to build a stationary chicken pen, I think probably the easiest way for somebody who just wants to do it, go look on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, anything like that, or go on down to Home Depot or something like that. But get yourself like a dog kennel, like a chain link dog kennel. Set that thing up, build a solid roof on it, whether it's plywood, slats, old tin, something like that, and then cover all of the gaps and the holes in the corners and whatnot with hardware cloth or mesh, something like that. Get yourself a good mesh all the way around the bottom. That's going to be the best investment you've made in square footage and predator proof. Right there, and then if you want to add on to it, throw some gutters on it.
If you take that mesh and before you attach it to your base, you bend the bottom of it into an L.
Yep.
So it comes out like this and then bends out like that. Then cover it with dirt. And then as soon as something tries to dig in there, and they find that, like, oh, there's a magical force field, and then they'll move on.
Make yourself a skirt. Yep, exactly. And yeah, I mean, that's going to give you a ton of space. You can walk in the damn thing. I'm 6'2". I don't want to walk into a 4-foot high coop, you know? And if you've got a tiny little bitty coop out there, you're going to find is you're never going to end up cleaning it. You're never going to go in there and change your bedding and do what you need to do. You're going to have eggs in the corners that rot because you can't get into the damn thing. So,
well, let's talk about deep bedding real quick. You want to?
Yeah, let's go.
Those chicken coops, those $800 ass cutesy wootsy little chicken coops from Tractor Supply or Horselands or whatever, or fucking wherever, those are ridiculous. They got a little tiny tray that's this deep. They got this deep of a tray, and they're like, sprinkle some flakes in there for them to poop on.
Yeah.
No, so
that's
then,
great if you're an old lady want to go out there with a cat litter scoop and clean your chicken crap out every single day.
And here's the thing, some of them chicken poops are bigger than the slot allotted for the little tray that they're supposed to poop on, and put a little bit of, you know, some wood chips down on the tray. It's too freaking cute. It's too cute. Yeah. But it's not cute when you got to clean it.
Out and putting them in a dog carrier so you can go in and clean out all the crap.
And you hose this thing out because it's full of shit. What you do is,
because you get it wet now. Yep.
We mess with ours twice a year.
Right.
We do our bedding twice a year, sir. We put, matter of fact, I'm going to run outside and show you.
All right.
It's super easy to build. And you fill it up when you've got 6 inches of bedding in there. What you do, you go in there with a rake, you turn it once a week. At the end of the season, you've got some great compost for your garden. And it gently composts all winter, which produces some heat also. So,
that
stuff. Yeah. I could, this is all dry. I need to probably turn this right now. But see, I put a board in right here, 6-inch board, and I fill it up to here, you know, like I'll mix this up, and then I'll add some more. And then by the end of winter, come springtime next year, all these little dry poops in here and mixed in with all this carbon material, it's going to be great. But yeah, awesome. I put a board up in front of here. I'll dig off.
Yep. And if you keep up with it and you keep adding fresh bedding material, there's not really an odor issue. Everybody thinks it's going to smell horrible or whatnot. No, it dries it out because that's the key. It's not going to stay wet. Now, it is immediately captured by the carbon. If you're using carbonaceous material, like, you know, it could be dead leaves, dead grass, or just chips of wood of any size. The small chips break down a little faster than the big ones, but that's all it's got to be is just sawdust. Even like now with mine, I run my ducks and my chickens together in the same coop. And when we first started doing it, I mean, I let my chickens out and stuff now too, but I usually have a couple of chickens that stay in the coop, shut up during the day. Because, you know, ducks are messy. It's wet. So you got to keep adding a lot of dry and whatnot. So that deep litter, I probably got to do it way more than twice a year. But the nice thing about that is because chickens love to do what? Scratch and turn all that stuff. So I can keep that bedding a lot fresher. It's not just compacted layers of mud and duck poop, because I let those chickens come down during the day and scratch and turn that and keep that bedding fresh.
We do it out here between the coops too. This is just real deep bedding material, gradually turning into soil. It captures the poo as it goes.
What's your preferred bedding material? What are you guys using there? Just
pine big wood chips. I like the big pine shavings, but I will also use hay when it's free. Like we drug a whole bale of hay up in here and used half at a time over the winter because it was already foul and they weren't going to use it for their cows. So we just drug it in here and used it for bedding because it was free.
When I can get it, if you can get a hold of the tree trimmer guys, and they've usually got just extra chips, and they'll love a place to drop, stuff like that. Man, wood chips. If you can get free wood chips, that is the best thing you'll ever use.
Yeah, are you seeing it?
I'm seeing it.
This is what this is, just these big wood chips. But you see the big wood chips break down into small wood chips. And like this was all poo in here at some point, but the wood chips immediately capture the poo and start breaking it down. So like here, this is part wood chip, part poo, and 100% pretty soil because all that ammonia was captured. So there's no smell.
In a year, that's going to be the best compost, better than any compost you could buy.
Yeah, when we finally do end up pulling it out of here, we'll stick it out by the fence and we'll hose it down just to get it to kick off one more time and to finish breaking down. It'll heat it up one last time. Yeah, and then after that, then you got some nice fertile compost.
And if you can't grow a garden in that compost, you can't grow anything.
The main thing about it that appealed to me though was I was not gonna have to go, and somebody gave us one of those little stupid what them little tractor supply type of coops with a little tray in it.
Yep.
We immediately just took that out. We floored it. And I put deep bedding in that too. So when we went to build our own, we went deep bedding because like I'm not going to deal with chicken poop every day. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have time.
You can't do it. No. Most people don't. You got a life. And
it seems like that whole store-bought system is like designed to make you feel like what a chore this is to keep a bird or two. I sure wouldn't want to keep a few hundred. Well, no, not if I had to keep their bedding this thin and change a few hundred worth.
Right. Do you think the chicken meat that you buy from the store was raised by somebody who has a whole pile of those little bitty, little looks like a ranch house type chicken coops,
yes,
and somebody
a little red barn
sliding these little trays out and changing them out every day?
It's a little red barn with a weather vane, and they've got thousands of them.
Oh yeah, there's just fields of them, and somebody's out there changing trays every day. Yeah, this is not how it's done.
No, in the industry, it's actually like everybody should go look at this for themselves to figure out like where their meat comes from.
Right.
Because they're kept on 1 square foot, mind you.
Exactly. I say be careful if people are just getting into this. Don't go on to Facebook and join a bunch of chicken groups and listen to all the old blue-haired chicken ladies who want to go out and there are people they're worse than the dog people on Facebook. There are people who literally tell you don't let any onions end up in the food scraps you give your chickens because it'll kill them. The list of things that will kill a chicken that have never killed my chickens. Oh my God, yeah. Oh, no. Like, are you kidding me? I've seen chickens tear up some shit that you say is supposed to be toxic to them, and they don't care. You got people think if you throw in an apple core, your chickens are all going to die. They're going to eat those seeds, get cyanide, and die. No. They're not that hard to raise. Things do happen. There are problems or whatnot, but there is so much fear surrounding this. They're not hard to raise.
They're not. It's been surprisingly easy. That was like the first part of the learning curve is I could actually do a lot more of this. Like I know I'm not doing it exactly how I'm going to end up doing it right now. I'm going to figure out a few things, figure out how to treat a couple of maladies like sauerkraut and whatever. Like you have to get through. You're going to have chicken fall ill, and you're going to learn how to deal with that as you go.
Yep.
But first getting in,
make the mistakes.
The first thing you're going to find out is it was easier than you expected.
Exactly.
And that it's just as easy to raise 50 birds as it is to raise 5. If you set it up properly to where you're just doing one set of chores.
Yep.
I mean, it takes me about a half hour.
Start out with like 5 or a dozen or something like that. Probably don't go buy 50 chickens right away, especially if you don't have the facility set up to house them, because you're probably gonna end up with 50 dead chickens. But get started. And once you do get started and you build that confidence of with a smaller flock, it's really easy to ramp it up. It's really easy to figure out a way to increase your performance in your. So I don't know. Well, we're knocking on about an hour and a half here. I have a feeling we could revisit this and come back and cover a whole lot more topics. We could probably go on for days. So I'm sure we'll have you back around. But as we finish out, are there any kind of last minute finishing thoughts that you kind of want to tell people? Anything that you kind of want to point people towards?
Just, do what you can do. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do, because you definitely can and should. And as soon as you start doing whatever it is that's in your heart that you think you want to do, and you have the resources to kind of put toward that direction, just start doing a little bit, and you'll find out that it's not as hard and not as scary as you thought it was. And then you'll end up expanding. And like, don't covet somebody else's garden or somebody else's setup, because that didn't happen for them overnight either. And don't be worried about what else somebody else knows, because they didn't begin their life knowing more than you. They had to learn too. So
we're all born
focus on yourself, get something done, provide for your family, and provide your own food security. And when you can get to the point where you can scale up, and you will, then you'll also be able to help your friends and your neighbors. You'll be a benefit to your community, a pillar in your community, and it's time for every consumer to make the transition to become a producer. Even if you're, and I'm not saying that you have to produce everything that you consume.
No.
You know, like maybe you still have to go to Walmart, you know, a time or two a month to catch up on the things that you can't produce. Maybe that's everything right now. Maybe all you can produce is some zucchinis in a small garden on a balcony. That's still something. And that is still a measure of independence that you have reclaimed from a system designed to reduce you to dependence. And that is the struggle. That is the fight. Food is a weapon. So you need to pick it up and use it. You need to pick it up and use it for your own self-defense. So that's where I would leave it, sir.
That is perfect.
And I'd love to come back when we get the remote site set up and we have all of the remote watering.
Yeah. That is awesome. No, we definitely want to see that. Absolutely. And well, all right, Johnny, thanks so much for joining me here. It's been a great discussion, great topic.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
We could go on forever. And so follow him over there, RebelPoultry on TikTok. He's not hard to find. I posted the link in the YouTube show notes, and I will post that in all the audio side and stuff as well. You can find all of my stuff and always find my live feeds and whatnot at live.libertymeat.solutions. And like I said, check out renegadebutcher.com. We're trying to launch those seasonings over there as well. We got a bunch of the Food Freedom merch and stuff. So everybody head on over that way. I'm pushing. I've got those memberships. We're going to hopefully get going, get this stuff kicked off. I'm only doing 100 of the lifetime memberships. So that may take off really quick. If you want it, get in on it. I'm going to be on the Survival Podcast coming up on Wednesday. That's going to be a huge audience there too. So you never know. Those might sell out quick. And hopefully we'll be having some more people interviewed here in the next few weeks. I will announce those as we know them. But thanks for listening, folks. Appreciate you all tuning in. Hope you are having a great Friday and have a great weekend. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't be just a talker. Be a doer. Like he said, don't just be a consumer. Be a producer. Go out and be free.